My name is Neil Shaw and I'm a skills advisor at the British Council, and I lead on the strategic development of our international skills partnership work. This session explores the greatest achievement, the greatest challenge, the greatest opportunity of international skills partnership, and that is creating, capturing positive impact that changes people's lives. This will be very much an interactive session. We'll spend most of the time working in groups to tackle specific questions, but before I set those questions, I'd like to say a few things about the framework for those discussions and set you some context. Our international skills partnerships are a main strand of British Council's skills work globally, which started in earnest globally in 2008 and which has the central goal of tackling skills and employability challenges in the UK and around the world. International collaboration lies at the heart of all of our skills work, and nowhere more obviously than in the case of international skills partnerships. Our countries may have different contexts and be at different stages, but we all face the same kinds of challenges in the area of skills, often very complex challenges. And by working together and sharing knowledge and experience, we can achieve more. And allied to this, the increasing globalized economy and the changing nature of employment, with, for example, greater emphasis than ever before on mobility, on transferability of qualifications, means that it's of profound mutual benefit to cooperate internationally in the area of skills. And that's really what our partnerships are all about. Some figures. Since 2008, the British Council has run some 75 international skills partnerships in 33 countries, from Albania to Yemen, and in 21 industry sectors, from fashion to construction. But since 2008, our partnership work has transformed in its approach. I just want to say something very briefly about that. The journey that we've been on is reflected in part in the slide there. Initially, our partnerships were kind of college-to-college partnerships. They were single colleges in the UK partnering with single colleges in another country, and that has changed fundamentally. We now have a consortium-based approach. Employers, awarding bodies, skills agencies, skills sector organisations, NGOs, ministries, as well as training providers, taking part in holistic, joined up and much more powerful partnerships. Related to this, our constituency or catchment group for partnerships was relatively limited at the start, with a number of organisations involved in a number of partnerships. This has changed radically, and over the last year, 50% of our new international skills partnerships featured organisations that had never previously been involved in British Council partnership work. More organisations than ever before are getting involved. There's more competition, there's better partnerships. Related to that, partnerships were initially quite internally focused. Curriculum development just focused very often on the organisations concerned. Now our partnerships are increasingly aware of the potential to and the value of influencing policy, disseminating widely their work, and collaborating with other international skills partnerships, developing business opportunities. Greater emphasis on mutual benefit as well. More on this in a moment. These changes have not happened by accident. They're the result of changes in the way we run our partnerships, the methodology and the messages that we give. And core to that is you, our stakeholders in the UK and overseas, and particularly our partnerships themselves. Your feedback has been crucial in taking us on this journey, and that's one of the great benefits of events like this. The advances we've made in our partnership work over the years are invaluable because they allow us to more effectively meet probably the fundamental professional objective of everyone in this room, and that is improving the skills and employability, improving the opportunities, improving the lives of people, particularly young people around the world. It's relatively easy to create international partnerships. What's a lot harder is to make those partnerships truly effective and to harness the fantastic potential created by bringing together skills experts with radically different backgrounds, experience, cultural context to share knowledge, step out of the everyday, collaborate on developing innovative approaches to the challenges they face. The difficulties for partnerships are often considerable. Different time zones, communication challenges, other work demands, political upheaval, organisational upheaval. Not every partnership is a success, but the successes of our partnerships have got more numerous and more profound as together British Council and the organisations we work with have learned how to go about creating more effective international skills partnerships. Just want to say a few things about the impact that we've had. The impact is multifaceted. Our partnerships have, for example, changed national systems in quality assurance in TVET, for example, in Yemen. And the picture here, and some of you might recognise the subjects, is of our current International Skills Partnership of the Year between the UK and Yemen. And the fact that the ministry were involved in that meant that the lessons from that partnership were cascaded across the country. Our partnerships have also, for example, enhanced how training is delivered on a national scale. In Croatia, for example, curricula developed by a partnership in the area of tourism and hospitality is now included in the training that all students who are studying tourism in the country receive. So there's a lot of change that's happening and great impact on a national scale. The partnerships have also helped to create better trainers and more expert skills professionals, the most effective kind of staff development in the world, they have been described as. And similarly, with young people, the partnerships often offer truly life-changing experiences. This quote here, for example, is not the only one of its kind that we've had. So together we've done a great deal, but we want to achieve more. We want to reach more young people in even more effective ways. Delivering greater impact is then the main challenge we face. And before we go to work together to shape our answers to the questions, just want to reiterate a few points by way of context. First of all, we need to be clear about terminology. These are the three components, really, of international skills partnerships. And if we take an objective to improve quality assurance, an activity, for example, would be producing a quality assurance plan. A deliverable would be that quality assurance plan. Another activity would be implementing it. Another deliverable would be an assessment of how effective that implementation has been. And the impact is quality improved in the institutions in which that plan is relevant to. We need to be able to answer this question. Developing a curricula or informing national policy is a considerable achievement, and we're very proud of our partnerships that have delivered that. But we're also interested in what flows from that. What's the impact on the end user? What's the impact on the student? What, in other words, is the downstream impact of our international skills partnership work? There are three elements to impact: creating it, capturing it, and showcasing it. Clearly, if we create impact without capturing it, without showcasing it, we're missing a fundamental trick. We need to understand the effect of our work. As Kate from People First said this morning, how do we know if we've been successful? As Jonathan from ProSkills said this morning, how will we know when we have arrived? This year we conducted a major piece of research into our international skills partnership work, and thank you to all of those here who contributed to that research. A key finding was that a good deal of impact is created, but it's currently underreported. In the case of some UK organisations, for example, positive change in their organisations and the organisations touched by the partnership can be overlooked because of a sense that partnership impact is more or less exclusively focused on the partner country. Clearly, it isn't. That report also suggested a number of recommendations, and one of them was 2 ring-fenced phases within our international skills partnership projects, a benchmarking study at the start and an impact study at the end. Some partnerships do something like that already, but it's formalising that. We think this is a good idea. We'd be very interested in your views. Finally, impact is closely related to future funding. The direction of travel of our international skills partnerships is very much towards a kind of co-funding basis. Already around 40% of funding for our partnerships comes from out with the British Council, and this doesn't include the match funding that all partnerships contribute. This proportion, the co-funded element, the element out with the British Council, will increase, and clearly the more hard evidence we have of impact, the easier it will be to attract funding from governments, from agencies, and from corporations. So that's really just to kind of set the scene out, really, for the discussions that we have. What we're going to do now, you don't have to move. That's the good news. Well, there's no bad news. It's all good news. You don't have to move. We very cleverly divided the room up into 3 zones, and the first zone, which we've called Zone 1, is the first 2 rows. Okay, and what we'd like you to focus on, just in the tables that you're in, are these questions here. How much downstream impact is it realistic to expect our partnerships, international skills partnerships, to create? And what is a reasonable indicative time frame for delivering such impact? There are post-it notes on your tables. Please, by the end of our discussion period, which will be round about half an hour, make sure that you have got one post-it, at least, that gives some response to the first question there, and one response to the second question. There will be floating British Council people, because that's what we do, we float, coming around and helping the discussions along and facilitating as required. So that's Zone 1. Zone 2, which is the next 2 rows, your questions are: what are the main challenges in capturing downstream impact in international skills partnerships, and how are these challenges best addressed? Again, please use the post-its, and please use the flip charts to stick your post-its on. And Zone 3, to what extent is impact currently focused on the partner country rather than the UK? And if there is an imbalance, how is this best addressed? Now, we know there are people in the room who aren't directly involved in international skills partnerships. There are a great many people who are. We are very interested in the views of people outside of these partnerships to get your take on these questions as well. So we're going to go into these discussions now. What we'll do is, about 15 minutes from the end, we'll bring you all back into plenary, and what we'll do is briefly summarise the contributions that you have made, reflected in the post-its on the flip charts. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah.
As a young learner, is it really, if it is going to make a difference, how long does it take?
To look at sustainability. These are the challenges we are facing. How we can measure our efforts against these indicators. So this is exactly the thing. What we are saying, how we can do that. So we need to check that out and see.
Đây chưa quay chưa chưa gần kiến trúc rồi tốt.
Raising the curriculum to international recognition or level, whereas maybe with kids, whenever I now go on any visits, I write a report. What do you
The measurement of
exactly.
You need to.
Yes, and I think very often going back to the skills competition, that was a key part. It happened, it was a success level. In the first place, 2 years on.
And then the is a winning.
How do you capture it? How do you communicate, and how do you engage other people to build it? Yeah. Thank you.
I have a hospitality department.
They have their own way of collaboration, culture, organization culture. So that is challenges.
The way we start discussions was really interesting, and that actually caused a problem, again culturally, just being aware. Those initial difficulties really made it difficult to define the impact, because for once talking from the detail point of view, like minuscule, step by step, and that's how you do it in UK, you do it very, step by step, whereas in India it was much of a big bang approach, and then you narrow it down to the detail.
I think I'm.
It doesn't want
An ideological answer. Yeah.
Because often a one-year project will just not get going at the very beginning.
Because we do not understand the planning is part of the project. Because what happens, we put out the call, these guys start meeting, there is an exchange visit, that's part of the project, but at the moment it's not counted as part of the project. So my first point, I totally disagree, despite the fact that British Council thinks their projects are 12 months, they are not 12 months. And secondly, I think let's also think about impact on the level of sustainability.
About impact assessment.
About measuring impact.
relationship. It's a bit like if you're in a marriage, you don't know in 5 or 10 years that start businesses. It means that there's
بدنا لازم نغير اللي في العقليه بتاعنا في الذهن بتاعنا نصير خلينا اكسب انا كنت طماع خليت ما هو بالله لهم بينيفيس
يقولون على جروب A شوف انا ايش عملت لك من هديه انا سكت لك المقال اليمن
Ladies and gentlemen,
Nếu như họ muốn
doanh nghiệp của mình nó phát triển mạnh lên, lập tức là họ phải đưa người, họ sẽ đào tạo mình, hoặc là họ phải đưa người của mình. Thì mình thấy mình được đào tạo, nhưng mà thực ra thì cái mục tiêu rất rõ ràng là họ muốn quản trị cái doanh nghiệp đấy một cách họ tài chính minh bạch, chẳng hạn, họ sẽ chủ động họ đào tạo trước. Thì có hai cách là đào tạo rất nhanh, như một anh chàng
Today it's okay, but when you have enough money, relationship and they quite new. It's three colleges from Britain, local. So.
Okay, we're going to go now into our feedback session, which will be the last element of the day, of the Bringing the Learning Home seminar, day one. The question for the first zone were these. How much downstream impact is it realistic to expect international skills partnerships to create? And what is a reasonable indicative time frame for delivering such impact? So if we could have the feedback from zone 1, that'd be great.
Of the post-it notes which are up here, then I think there's a number of really good points about the nature of the impact that we're looking to measure, and how we might we might go about capturing that. So the need for greater clarity on the assessment of impact and what we're looking for, different ideas about ratios of funding to time invested, looking at impact beyond the partnership. And so once the partnership has come to an end or the initial project's been finished, the length of time that you might want to look beyond that to really gauge the impact. In terms of the second question, the time frame, then there's a broad consensus on 2 years. Seems to be a reasonable minimum length of time before you can start to measure impact. Jonathan, was there more from your table that we could ask you to add?
Thank you. We hopefully, like everybody else, have had a really fruitful discussion. I think there are a couple of points that we probably would like to make. When it comes to downstream, there's a difficulty in identifying at the outset of a project how far the impact will reach. What you do need to have an eye on is the end destination and the horizon. So you need to look ahead and decide how many learners might benefit, or how many businesses, or how many governments or stakeholders. So you need to look right at the end of the destination, because your journey on the way through a project will take many routes, and you might get on and off buses, use cars, boats, it doesn't matter, but you'll go all over the place before you get to your destination. And I think that's really important. It's difficult to set out impact at the beginning, but it's easy to be really clear about your destination. And I think then you have a framework on which you can measure impact because you've identified some key markers. When it comes to the time frame, I think really it comes back to a point I've made in previous years, that there needs to be a framework in place that draws the line in the sand before you begin, and there is some kind of measurement process. And then you need some kind of mid-measurement, and you need something at the end that is probably 2 or 3 years down the line, and that may vary from project to project. Because one thing I don't understand is, how do you know how far you travelled if you didn't know where you started?
Thank you, Jonathan. I think those are excellent points, particularly the last thing there is that we need to have a starting point. We need to know what that starting point is. The 2 years feedback is really very interesting. Currently, our international skills partnerships projects are funded now for 12 months. They can move to advanced partnership projects beyond that time. And one reason, and this came from the partnership constituency, one reason that adjustment was made is it allowed us to shift the funding to the partnerships that were working strongly. So that's really why that adjustment was made. An impact beyond the partnership project, that is something that we are really interested in achieving and having that sustainable approach. And any adjustments that we make to partnerships will be towards that end. We've got another contribution from Zone 1.
Hello, my name is Helen from Westminster Kingsway College, and actually we talk about what kind of impact, nature of the impact we might want to achieve with this partnership work. Actually, I just put it in our own context because it's easier to understand when it's contextualized. So we had got this British Council funding last year with the Vin University of Technology Education for a year's frame. It's all about the quality assurance thing through the assessor training, because it's some sort of new concept for the Vietnam, how to assess actually competency and skills rather than just assess the knowledge. So we just done a 1-year project, and then actually as an outcome, we trained 8 or 10 teachers. And then after that, they cascaded the learning throughout their whole institutions. So I know that they've got 200 teachers on their university has got this concept. And we had an interesting discussion about how we can measure that impact. I think that would be like an immediate impact, could be. And then it was an interesting discussion. I said about, qualities come from not only top down, it's come from the bottom up. So I said, all the teachers we trained, they said it was brilliant, it was like a mind opener, and then their whole change of their mindset when they approach teaching and assessing is a whole change. And I learned, a gentleman here, is that it's not enough because you need the evidence. And I think, yes, how many percentage, for example, has been changed, for example, from just assessing like exam type of test type of assessment to actually more work assignment or something different. I heard a lot of good stories from my partners, but I didn't actually ask them how much actually they can make evidence about these changes. So anyway, that's one of the important sort of sorry, I can make it, sorry, quick. So there was an immediate impact, and then the other thing is that there's a midterm impact. Actually is more about immediate impacts can be within a year, but midterm impact could be like actually change the culture of the institution. I think maybe 1 or 2 years after the funding of the partnership. But we talk about the longer term because in the end, we'd like to impact the end user, which is learner, to get a more employability skills. So I think it will take more than 3 or 5 years. And then we even have got some feedback, not only by learners, through the employers, how it impacted. So what I want to say is that we will actually get an immediate impact within a year's funding period, but we will definitely want to look at the sustainability and then how we can reach far better, maybe within 3 or 5 years. Sorry.
Thank you. That's a really helpful contribution, and the idea of having that sort of phased approach and awareness is really helpful. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move to Zone 2 now, and what we're looking at there are these questions: the main challenges in capturing downstream impact in international skills partnerships, and how best to address these.
I think a lot of it's already been covered through Zone 1 in terms of lots of cross-collaboration. But one of the things about capturing impact that's been touched upon is how do you capture the soft impact? It's quite easy to capture the measurable aspects of it. For example, staff development was mentioned in one of the quotes as being one of the key outcomes of being involved in one of these projects. How do you actually capture something like that and feed that back into your project? So we found that might be something to look at in terms of addressing going forward.
Thank you. We've got one more.
Thank you. Well, the question is what are the main challenges in capturing downstream impact? And let me share some information related to tourism industries, especially. Yes, the most challenging one is quality assurance, right? And that quality assurance, we do really aware that human capital is the most important one. And then because of that reason, then on that human capital, we do things that doing standards is the most important things. What kind of standards? It is, let's say, the quality standards. In this case, that standard will be as a policies, the national policies, what I mean. In that case, I would say that in ASEAN countries, more specifically in tourism sectors, we have what's so-called common ASEAN tourism competencies. When we are talking about standards, mean that we are talking about competencies. So we are in ASEAN countries now agree that those competencies is now going down to the main streams, what so-called, let's say, ASEAN Common Competency Standard in Tourism Professionals. So why tourism professionals and related services is important? Because we want that quality is standardized. So from those ASEAN countries, then we have the standard, and every country should be able to set up the policies, and then from those policies, then addressing to the human resources which has standardized competencies.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So we move now to Zone 3, please. And Zone 3's questions were, to what extent is impact currently focused on the partner country rather than the UK? And if there is an imbalance, how is this best addressed?
Thank you. So we had quite a few ideas really focusing on the second part of this question. Firstly, around identifying the sorts of benefits that UK young people might gain from international skills partnerships. So around what type of skills might they benefit along the lines of things like confidence, ability to work with people from other cultures, languages, vocational skills as well. And I think that ties into the point made earlier about some of these things are quite intangible. The UK benefit is perhaps more intangible, and therefore, how do we measure that? We also had some ideas about the types of activities that would make sure that there was mutual benefit in both countries. So things like pupil exchanges, teacher exchanges, and also businesses identifying what they can learn, UK businesses, and by working overseas and gaining better labour market intelligence from that. So that was to do with some of the activities. And then I'm just going to go over here. This table here had a lot of ideas, so I've just asked for the top 2 or 3.
I'll try and be brief, but as a new player in the international partnership game, it did feel that we should go in and pretty much dictate to our partners in terms of we know best, we know what to do, and of course partnerships and relationships never work if you do that. It became very obvious during the scoping exercise that we really needed to identify a project that brought about a real benefit to our own organisation, so that we felt we could get something out of the project as well as the other partner. It really felt we should listen more than talk. And actually, as we went through the scoping exercise, which almost felt competitive as we were seemingly competing with other organisations, we actually felt it was best to collaborate, and we looked around the room. We found a number of partners with a range of skills, all with a mutual benefit and interest in making the partnership work. And that's exactly what we did. And to date, the partnership's working very well because we took that approach of looking for something that had mutual benefit for all partners.
Thank you very much for that excellent contribution. That's been really interesting from Zone 3. So we're looking at mutuality. That's part of our core principle with regards to partnerships. That doesn't mean that it's a symmetrical benefit that the partnerships have, but both partnerships benefit in some way. And the point about the UK benefit being maybe more intangible, I think, is a valid one, and also that these partnerships are creating significant benefit in the UK, but it's also a question of capturing what can be captured. So thank you very much. Thank you all for contributing so well. We will capture all of the points that are on bullet points, and these will be reflected in the report that we will be producing. We'll tell you more about that tomorrow. This is really the end of the first day. I'd just like to make a couple of brief announcements. I'd like to say to those of you who've been tweeting, thank you very much. Please tweet more. The hashtag is bringing learning home. For those of you who've registered for the ASEAN Skills Competition, we will be taking you over to the competition now. So the message is to please meet in the lobby directly from here. There will be a British Council person there waiting to escort you over. I think it's been a fantastic day. I've enjoyed myself tremendously. I hope you have. And enjoy the ASEAN Skills Conference if you're going, and we'll see you at dinner. Thank you very much.